Are you rocking the black tee in every episode? Keep it
Um,
consistent.
kind of. Nah, sometimes I
Yeah.
wear like a white, sweatshirt, depending.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I only got two colors in my closet right now.
Yeah.
So
There are some creators I've noticed who just always wear the same sweatshirt in every thing that they're in,
uh-huh.
which I think is kind of smart. Like you don't have to worry about it.
It's pretty
Yeah,
easy.
like unless you're like, dressing up to be in a character.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And sometimes algorithm. Oh, well, let me not go with algorithms. That sounds damn. That's crazy. I was about to talk about my dressing style and how it
Yeah.
would affect the algorithm. That is not good. Let's not start the podcast with how the algorithm affects my real life.
I mean, at some point you start thinking about dreaming and thinking about everything in terms of what you're doing for content. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the dark side of it. You want to
Yeah.
be viral, cool, but your dreams are going to be infiltrated by Instagram and TikTok and maybe Snapchat if you're lucky.
I try not to think about the algorithm that much though.
Mm.
Like my thought process has always been if it's good, it's good.
Ah.
If it catches on, it catches on. Like I'm very honest with myself about anything that I make.
Mm-hmm.
If I have high expectations for a video and then it flops, I just think, well, I guess it wasn't very good. I guess it wasn't very good. Like I know that within the first 2 seconds, I need to get your attention.
Mm.
And if I didn't, then that's on me.
Right.
Like there's algorithm specific details that are like micro adjustments that I'm sure are important at some stage. But my thing is, I got to get your attention. And if I don't, then that's on me to fix next time.
Damn, bro.
Yeah.
That's a nice mindset to
Yeah.
have. Hold on 1 minute.
Yeah.
Right there.
Yeah.
Cool, perfect. I just want to make sure.
Hello.
Hello. Sorry. Quick 3-second break.
All
Anyways,
right.
Don, how did you get to that mentally? Because I mean, for a person that creates a lot in content,
Yeah.
when you put something out there and it doesn't work in the way you expect it to,
Yeah.
intellectually, maybe yes, but
Mhm.
from a spiritual and emotional, it's like,
Yeah.
wow, this is not good.
Yeah. I have been creating things for long enough throughout my life that I just know that um, sometimes my own taste is not going to be the taste of my audience, and that's okay. Some things I make that I know that are just for me anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Like uh, some of my favorite sketches, some of my best comedy writing that I've ever done.
Yeah.
Nobody watched that shit. Totally flopped. But I know that one was just for me and like a couple of my friends or whoever I know is like clued in on that subject. While there's a couple of sketches that I've done where I think this is for all of you. This is for all of you.
Yeah.
I know this is something that like one of my most popular sketches of all time was something that I thought of, wrote, shot, acted out, edited, and published all within 10 minutes.
Oh, wow.
And you can tell there's like it's 15 seconds long. There's two characters in this sketch.
Yeah.
It's just me with my glasses on and my glasses off. And I have bedhead in that video because
Oh,
like
shit.
I wasn't like trying to be polished to be on camera. I just like got out of bed. I was like making breakfast. I was like, that's a stupid sketch. I want to do that. I want to do that. And I just did it right here.
Yeah.
And I shot it, did it all 10 minutes. And, it got like, 4.5 million views or something.
Wow.
No. Like 2 million views.
Yeah. Who's counting, right? I mean,
Yeah.
After a million.
Once something goes into the millions, though, you're like,
yeah,
it's just out there. It belongs
Right.
to the world.
pretty much.
Yeah. But to the original question, obviously I dwell on it a little bit
Okay.
if something sucks.
Yeah. Just want to make sure you're human,
Yeah. But I've been also like professionally for my day job, I worked in marketing for a really long time. And because of the stakes being much more concrete in a professional setting where there's sometimes money involved, there's production time, and I have to do all this reporting about it. I had to be very, very frank about the performance of some of the content that I've done in a professional setting. Like, okay, there's no one else to blame. Like, it's on me.
Right.
And ownership is such a big part of being in like professional like leadership roles that I just put my hand up and like, that wasn't that good.
And you had to too.
Yeah, I'll do better next time. Yeah.
That's so interesting you bring up the part because you worked in marketing for a long, you said over
Yeah.
10 years, right?
Yeah, I worked in marketing my entire professional career, 14 years.
14. Yeah. Okay. So then, yeah, you have a different idea of advertising, marketing,
Yeah.
even with social media.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
you was responsible for like numbers. So
Yes.
one thing for me to be like, oh, this sucks and this and that based on objective numbers. But
Right.
for you, there's like actual like quant and qual numbers to be like, all right, this didn't
100%.
hit based on these KPIs we had set for this quarter.
Yes.
You're fired. You know what I mean? Like,
100%. Yeah. Like it has always been, and it was my least favorite part of the job.
mhm,
But having done it for so long, yeah, I did develop the resilience to accept that something that I thought was creatively well executed was not well received,
mhm,
and that the numbers weren't good, and just do something different next time. Um, but more than that, though, the heart of this thing is like the first marketing job I ever had.
mhm.
I worked at an agency called VaynerMedia.
What? You worked for VaynerMedia?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So you knew Gary V?
Yeah, exactly. I was one of the first 100 employees at
Y-
VaynerMedia. Yeah. So Gary was the CEO. Yeah,
What?
yeah, yeah. So my whole yeah, that was my first ever marketing job. Was at VaynerMedia in New York. And if you're not for people who aren't familiar, Gary V's whole thing is just, the attention economy. Like your the way that I was taught marketing by Gary is marketing is just intercepting people's attention where it already is and
Mm,
then providing them as much value as possible to create a relationship that makes it possible for you to sell them something in the future.
mm,
And that's the same thing I've been doing in every marketing job I've ever had. And being taught uh, this mo around marketing just meant that it's all about attention, and
mm,
people are so in this was in 2011, 2012, and the landscape is radically different today. People are even more wildly overstimulated, and attention is so fractured now more than ever. And so the game is just really, really advanced now. And I just know that I have to keep up. Like I have to
yeah.
make sure that it's been the same from a professional marketing point of view. I have to keep up, make sure that I know what people are paying attention to every single day, year over year.
Mm.
And the same thing with the comedy that I do. Make sure that it's good. Make sure it's good. The game is
Yeah.
really, really advanced.
Right. I
Yeah.
mean, I got to. But hold on, that I did not know you work. First of all,
Yeah.
anyone who's going to be watching this, they know about Gary Vee. You can't escape that guy. That guy
Yeah.
is everywhere. You know, what I mean, I got
Yes.
his book is on my thing right there.
All
That's
right.
how
Yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah.
how everywhere he is.
I haven't read any of the books. I'm sorry, Gary, but I
Well, you
haven't
talked to
read
him in
any of the
person. I'm pretty sure
books.
he gave you a real like behind the
For
scenes.
sure. Yeah.
Damn. So you were the first 100 Gary Vee. So
Yeah.
okay. So I gotta. This is a topic we definitely gotta talk about.
Yeah. Yeah.
Was he? Is he the same way as he is on like social media, like in person?
100%.
Ah.
Yeah. Yeah. Gary is, well, to be honest, maybe some of the stuff has changed, but I mean, because he's been doing this for so long.
Mhm.
But Gary is, uh, he has that level of intensity in person as he does online. But my lasting impression of Gary is that he, uh, despite all of the stuff he had to manage and pay attention to, yeah, he knew about me. And
Wow.
everyone who joined at the time, every new joiner got 5 minutes with Gary as an intro. And I'm sure he had someone on staff like remember this stuff and like have it on record. But what we had talked about in that intro 5 minute sit down, he remembered forever. Yeah. So he remembered what we had talked about a year and a half later when I left the agency.
Wow.
Yeah. And he's always super intense, like always bringing maximum amount of Gariness, you know?
Gariness.
But yeah, I never felt like he wasn't authentic or that he was putting it on. He wasn't like lights on, lights off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, shout out to Gary because you just said something very important. He actually redefined the name of Gary and the things that come along with it. Because if I heard the name Gary, I think boring. I
For
think like
sure.
Gary has an office job,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
accountant, maybe a whimsical one at some fancy company, but
That's
still in
true.
the books.
That's true.
He made Gary into a superstar.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100% true. Yeah. Hadn't thought about it that way, but that is what the name used to represent.
Wow. Shout
Yeah.
out to Gary Vee for making the name Gary more popular again. There's
Yeah.
probably gonna be more babies named Gary.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's dope. Wow. Okay. So that you worked for Gary. And what was the can you talk about the 5 minutes you had? Like what the things you talked about?
Yeah. He just asked me what I cared about,
Hmm.
and I told him that I was very family oriented,
Mm.
and he said, like, yeah, me too. That's my number one thing is family, and that's something that we had a immediate sort of kinship over. And he also knew that I was really into music, and that ended up being important later on because a year and a half later, when I decided to leave the agency, Gary actually remembered that I was a big music guy, and he set me up to meet the CEO of one of the music startups that he was an investor in, and I ended
Wow.
up going to that company to work for them. So
Nice.
yeah, and like the sort of chain of events that started from me working at VaynerMedia to him setting up that intro with the CEO of a company called Songza, which
Mm.
was a music streaming service. And I ended up working there. And then we got acquired by Google. I worked there. And then after I worked there, they paid me a bunch of money to leave, basically. Yeah,
Google.
yeah, yeah. So
Uh,
I was able to move to Berlin after that because I had a little bit of a safety net from the money that I had received from working at Google. And that's what made it possible for me to move to Berlin without much of a plan. And yeah, that was 10 years ago.
mm.
Yeah.
And how was Berlin when you first got here to what it is now? Like what are some of the differences you've noticed or what were some of the things you experienced?
um, there's a lot has changed, certainly. But
Or how about
hmm,
how about start with this? How was Berlin you coming? Because at the time,
mhm.
where you was living at before coming to Berlin?
I was living in Brooklyn, New York.
Oh, he's okay. So you live in
Yeah,
Brooklyn. Okay,
yeah,
what
yeah,
part
yeah.
of Brooklyn?
I was living in Greenpoint.
Greenpoint. Okay,
Yeah,
Greenpoint is
yeah,
man, that would have been a nice little I won't say jarring
yeah,
transition, but
yeah,
Greenpoint is a little more chill,
yeah.
off the G line, right?
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah,
So it's a
yeah,
little more chill,
yeah,
quiet, not too crazy as like,
yeah.
Bushwick or,
Exactly. Yeah.
not too as sterile as Williamsburg, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah. I love Greenpoint. Shout out Greenpoint.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Greenpoint is dope. Very good Polish food, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
So from Greenpoint to Berlin. So how was that coming to Berlin around that time?
I lived on Torstrasse when I first moved for 3 months,
Mm.
which is not which is not representative of what Berlin is like as a whole.
Uh,
And I moved to Berlin after I visited for the first time in the summer.
oh, okay.
And in the summer, I was living, I was staying right off of Paulinka Ufer,
Palinka
which
Ufa.
is, Paulinka Ufer and Maybach Ufer are at the
Okay.
canal in Kreuzberg. And
Oh, wow.
I was staying in such a nice area then. And then I got very lucky with the first place that I lived in Berlin off of being off of Torstrasse. So um, I just got like two very, very beautiful, like well connected locations where there were so many things happening. And it just felt a lot, it felt very similar. It felt very familiar.
Mm.
Um, the things that were jarring were like uh, being able to pay for entire meals with coins. Um, that was crazy.
Yeah.
Like, wow, carrying around like a fistful of coins to pay for
Yeah.
things. And I didn't really know what the level of English fluency would be like.
Mm.
Which if I had, because when I visited, like I didn't spend much time in like real Berlin. I was
Mm.
just spending time with people who were um, just out hanging out and partying.
Right.
And so I remember like going to Loewe for the first time to buy laundry detergent.
Mm.
And I looked over at the guy next to me and very shy, very quiet. I was like, "Hey, excuse me, do you speak English?" And dude looks at me like, "Yeah, what do you need?" Which is an experience many people have had coming here. And I was
Yeah.
like, "Oh, never mind, dude.
Right.
Like, this is gonna be easy."
Yeah.
Yeah,
Now
yeah.
you made me feel like a bad person for asking if you speak English.
Exactly, because he
Yeah.
looked at me with such puzzled eyes, like, "Motherfucker, what do you mean? Do I speak English?"
It's like
Like,
some weird abstract of stereotyping and
yeah,
racism. Kind of like, hey, do you speak
yeah,
English?
yeah,
Because
yeah.
I think they're like, what? Yeah.
Yeah, and like, he was like a blonde German guy. I was like, "Hey man, do you speak?" He's like, "Yeah, what do you need?" Um,
You spoke to him as how people be speaking to other people in other countries. Do you
yeah,
do you speak English?
and
He's,
like
he's like, yeah, USA has been here for a while. I speak English.
the thing I will say though about my experience in Berlin, and part of the reason why I've stayed so long is that, and I recognize how not totally unique, but very privileged my experience of immigrating to Germany has been.
Hmm.
I describe it as having moved here on easy mode.
Mm,
I have, I was able to find an apartment, that first apartment, through a friend.
hmm.
I found my next temporary apartment also through a friend.
Nice.
And um, all of my experiences with the Ausländerbehörde, I had an appointment. They knew my name.
Wow.
And it's the privilege of having come with an American passport. And I think that I matched the profile of the kind of person that the city of Berlin wanted to have move here and work
Mm.
here. And I have no illusions about it. Like, if I was coming from a different place with a different background, it would have been different.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it would have been different. And this became really clear to me. I was having a random conversation years ago now
Mhm.
outside of a bar, and I was talking to this random group of guys who were smoking cigarettes, and they were celebrating because they had just become German citizens.
Ah,
And it's a
ah.
group of Syrian guys, and they were describing like how arduous their immigration process had been. And
Mm.
not that I had, not reflected on it before, but I thought, wow, in comparison, like mine was a piece of cake.
Yeah.
Yeah. So um, it's been easy. It was easy to move. It's been easy to live here, easy to stay here.
Mhm.
Yeah.
What kind of visa did you get originally?
Yeah. So I moved here on uh, I moved here on a 90-day tourist visa,
Ah,
which you're
okay.
not supposed to do. It's not that you're not supposed to do it, but like
Yeah.
they don't recommend it because I sat down and I thought I had a paper calendar and I was like, X,
Yeah.
by this day,
Mhm.
I got to figure it out.
Yeah, that's not bad. That's
And
yeah.
so I knew I had a couple of options. I could get a uh, student visa, just enroll in class somewhere,
Mhm.
a freelancer visa, an artist visa, and the uh, full time employment one,
Mm.
residence permit, not visa. So I considered all of them, to be honest. I thought maybe I'll like play guitar on the street. Maybe I'll like, just be a freelancer or doing something.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll enroll in a class. Getting a job was my fourth choice. I was like, I just had a job,
Yeah, I
you
just
know?
got paid to leave. I don't
Yeah.
want to
Yeah, I just had a job. I'm not sure if I want to do that again because I wasn't expecting to move here permanently at the time. But the clock was ticking.
Yeah, 90 days.
And yeah, I just got a job, and it was a significant step down from what I was doing in the
Well,
past, but
yeah.
it was whatever, it was part of the deal. And yeah, I figured it out.
Nice, bro.
Yeah.
Nice. And that's how I actually where because I actually met you via TikTok,
Yeah.
and this is you sharing your experience of
Oh, that's
like
right.
getting the visa and stuff like that. That
Yeah,
was
yeah.
really helpful
Yeah.
at the time. So
Yes.
just saying thank you very much in advance
You're
with that
welcome.
one.
Yeah.
Cause I was like, yo, how
Yeah.
the hell? I
Yeah.
mean, what made you move? Like, what brought you to Berlin? Like, what was it that made you choose Berlin rather than any other city?
I did a very typical like American imagination of Europe thing.
Mm-hmm.
I booked a 2-week vacation that was going to start in Berlin. Then I was going to take the train down to Prague and Vienna and end up in Ljubljana. That was
Mm.
the route that I had chosen, and I booked 2 weeks to do it. I was going to be in Berlin for a couple of days.
Yeah.
I ended up being in Berlin the entire 2 weeks.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then a month and a half later, I moved permanently.
Oh, you had a good time here
Yeah,
then. Oh,
so
yeah, Berlin. Yeah, Berlin.
my first day in Berlin was my first full day was July 4th, 2015,
Yeah.
and it was like the hottest day of the year.
Oh, wow.
And I came out of the Airbnb or the hostel or whatever. It was so hot, and there was nobody. And I sat down at a cafe and I asked the person there, like, "Hey, I'm sorry, like what's happening? Like, where
Yeah.
is everybody?" And she laughed and said, "They're all at the lakes."
Oh, yeah, the lake is a big thing,
And she said that as if that's something that I would understand. I'm like,
yeah.
"What do you mean they're all at the lakes?"
Yeah.
I didn't know the geography of the place. I didn't
Right.
know that, like, I grew up in, always near the ocean.
Yeah.
And I was like, "What do you mean lakes?" And she said, "Oh, that's where people go when it's hot." "Oh, okay." And there was nobody around. So I just sort of like explored. And then at night, I was just passing through. Um, I was in Neukölln, and I just like passed by a group of people speaking American English,
Yeah.
and I just started chatting with them. Like when you're on vacation visiting somewhere, you're like
Mhm.
not yourself.
Right.
You just sort of like present as like the most outgoing, cool version of
Yeah,
yourself.
you have no choice.
You
You're
have no
alone.
choice. You
Yeah.
gotta, yeah. And I just went into that party with them, and I knew one person here that I hadn't met in person. It was like a friend of a friend.
Oh, okay.
And then I just like figured it out, and I ended up going out to a club alone. My first time going to a Berlin club.
Oh, what kind of club was it?
It was not a cool one.
Okay, it wasn't
Uh,
a cool one. Okay,
it
because
wa-
cool clubs here may mean something different. So that's
I
why.
I went to Chalet, which
Okay.
I don't know if that club is even open,
Uh,
but um, I I left the house at like 2 or 3 a.m. I was like, oh, I know I gotta go late, and I did a little solo pregame,
okay.
and I went in, and uh, I had a good time. Later that night, I was just in the back wall, just like sort of soaking it in,
Mm,
and out of just like the darkness, someone pops out and is like, "Hey, you got a lighter?" And I did,
yeah.
and I gave her my lighter, and she's like smoking a cigarette next to me. "Hey, what's going on?" Just like started talking to me, real outgoing. I said, "Hey, you want to meet my friends?"
Oh.
So I said, "Yeah, sure." I met her friends, and we hung out. And then after that, then she's like, "Hey, you want to meet again tomorrow?" And I just like hung out with this person, hung out with all of her friends, and like hung out with the few people that I knew. And I was just making friends along the way. And I ended up staying at her place. She's like, what are you doing? Like, what are your plans? Oh, I'm supposed to go on a train. I'm gonna
Yeah.
take a little solo trip down. Have you seen the movie Before Sunrise?
No, I haven't.
It's very much influenced by this thing. Before Sunrise is this movie where there's a young American guy is on the train, and he's
Hmm.
been in. There's a backstory to why he's in Europe, but
Right.
he meets this girl on the train in Vienna, and they get off the train together, and they have this like really beautiful experience.
Oh shit.
So I was in the Before Sunrise mindset.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, I'm down to just see where things go and see where things take me. So
Mm,
I ended up just being in Berlin that whole two
nice.
weeks.
Yeah, she didn't let you go. She was like, "Nah, let's."
Yeah, yeah, and like, man, Berlin summer 2015.
Oh,
There's
bro, you came at the right.
there was
Yeah.
like there was like yeah, magic dust in the air.
Yeah,
You know,
probably literally and
literally and
figuratively.
figuratively. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Why do I feel so energetic?
Yeah. So I had such a good time that I decided to just come back. My lease was ending in Brooklyn, and I found out that a job that I was expecting to get when I came back, I didn't get. I was at some random person's birthday party
Hmm.
when I got the call. So I was like in Berlin at some random person's apartment when I got the call from New York that I didn't get this job. So I was like,
And that's probably late
oh,
time. Yeah, 6 hours ahead. So.
exactly. So probably had a couple of drinks, and I was like, cool, thank you for the update. And I think I must have made the decision just that night, like, fuck it, I'll just go. I'll just move. And that was 10 years ago.
Damn. And so like
Yeah.
what how was that like so that was summertime and then in that same year was it like you moved in that same year?
I moved. So that trip was, yeah, 2 weeks, the first 2 weeks of July
Mhm.
2015. I moved to Berlin on September 1st, 2015. So I
Damn.
went back and I had a month and a half of being like fun employed and just closing up shop in my time in New York, where I'd been for 4 years, and packed all my shit and yeah, moved to Berlin. Month and a
Damn,
half later.
bro.
Yeah.
That sounds like, yeah, exact same thing on this side. Yeah,
Yeah.
came to Berlin and then it was in yeah, came back in around May and
Yeah.
then moved here in end of August. So that's the time. That's like
Yeah.
the same time
Yeah.
frame.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the way to
Wow.
do it.
But hold on, how did you like? What made you think Berlin was the place out of all cities to come to as your start of like this whole Euro trip? Because I don't know. For me, Berlin, bro, I ain't. I mean, most people attribute Germany the war and stuff like that, but for
Yeah.
me, my brain was not even there. It was just like,
Yeah.
all right, you got the UK, you got Paris,
Yeah.
all the Western European countries, and
Yeah.
Eastern Europe. That was just no man's land in my
Yeah.
mind.
I'm with you. Like I felt largely the same. I knew I had to go to Vienna because of this movie
Okay, the
again.
movie, okay,
Yeah, and I knew like I had to experience being on the train going through Vienna
all right,
just in case.
yeah, just in case some girl
Yeah.
walking off, so you're probably looking at every girl on the
Yeah,
train, being like, all
yeah,
right, so which one?
for sure.
she,
That was
she has the same book bag. I want to go.
you should watch this movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um and Berlin was the starting place because I knew one person, or I knew, yeah, like one, maybe two people, uh,
Ah.
who were friends of friends of like, I had a sort of a music project in New York,
Mhm.
and there was a New York group and a Berlin group of this project.
Mhm.
And I'd only ever met the Berlin group over like video call. So I
Mm.
had their contact information. And so I was like, I'll start there because it's the furthest, most north destination I wanted to go to. So
Mhm.
I'll start there and come down. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so I knew I wanted to end the trip in Slovenia. Yeah.
Mhm.
So that was the route I picked. I ended up doing that trip eventually after I moved, like 6 months after I moved. I ended up doing that actual trip, taking the
Oh,
train down
nice.
and all that. Yeah.
Nice. Nice, bro. Okay, so to kind of circle back to everything, so you're originally from California, right?
So I was born in Seoul.
Oh, you was born in Seoul.
Yeah, I was
Okay.
born in Seoul. Yeah, my whole family is from Seoul, both sides of my family. My extended family is still there. When I was 3, we moved to Hong Kong. So we lived in Hong Kong until I was 9, and then we moved to California. So
Mm.
um, in total, I've lived half of my life in the US and half of my life between, yeah, Asia and Europe.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you kind of got a good balance, I guess. Well,
Yeah.
depending on when. Well, I mean, yeah, being in America, you got the passport, and also too living. I feel like living in America or United States of America for people that it does add like a nice little backdrop to what things are, and then when you move out of it, you're kind of like, oh wow, I can't believe I was living life that way in a mostly capitalistic place, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I lived in I lived near LA and San Francisco and
Oh
New
yeah.
York. Those are like the 3 places I lived in the US.
Oh, so you had
So,
the different worlds you lived in.
yeah, I mean, like, I am the this is definitely, I mean this in a tongue-in-cheek way, but I am the coastal elite that they talk about on Fox News. Um,
Oh shit! I mean, you
yeah.
mentioned a lot of prominent companies you worked for, so people are
Yeah.
already trying to put you in a box.
Yeah, and,
You know?
like, I was very lucky. Um, I was raised a particular way, like, my parents, were, yeah, just very, like, conscientious, sort of, like, cultured people.
Hmm.
I went to an international school when I was a little boy,
Oh, nice.
and I didn't know I was Asian until I was 9, because I didn't people in America told me. But I grew up in a super international environment. Um, in Hong Kong, there's sort of an expat community there, and yeah, living in California, like where I went to school, also is always very international,
Mhm.
and that's the kind of yeah, community that I've tried to maintain
Mm.
throughout my life, and that's the same living here as well.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah,
So that's interesting. You said that in terms of like you not knowing you was Asian until
yeah,
you was nine
yeah,
here, and nine in the United States of America, or
yeah,
where you was living at the time. And I feel like that's something always because your family mostly from outside of America.
yeah,
So that whole thing of like what you are
yeah,
is and it's Korea's a very homogeneous place,
yeah,
right? So there's no like I mean maybe the distinctions come down into other places like
yeah,
maybe your job or something else. I don't
yeah,
know. And then when you come to America, it's like, oh shit, I forgot I am this subsection
yeah.
of a population. I didn't know.
I mean, it's been pretty consistent. I'd say like what kind of circle I run in since I was a kid.
Mm,
Um, if we had never left Korea, then yeah, like everyone I know would be Korean.
mm-hmm,
But so Hong Kong was part of the Commonwealth until 1997.
mm,
I'm going to date myself here exactly, but my family left in 1998.
okay.
So when I was a kid, it was very much like people from all over the Commonwealth countries.
Mm-hmm,
Yeah, from the UK, Australia, New Zealand, and lots of people from across East Asia and Southeast Asia.
mm,
So it was, yeah, and also people from the Middle East, people from like a handful of European countries as well.
mm-hmm,
Like in my in my class when I was a little kid, my closest friend was from the UK,
mm-hmm.
and another close friend was Chinese Australian. I had
Wow.
classmates who were Swiss, Lithuanian, Egyptian, and uh, it was very normal. If you look
Wow.
at the yearbook pictures from when I was a little kid,
Mm-hmm.
it's like a perfect diversity commercial. You know, yeah, it's
Wow.
like the future the liberals want
Yeah.
in a photo. Yeah,
Oh shit. Well, okay, a liberal paradise right
yeah,
there in Hong
yeah, yeah,
Kong.
yeah,
And before Korea, and then right after Korea, you moved to Hong Kong, or
yeah, yeah.
and so that was a nice little crash course of like diversity before going to America.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And where I lived in California was pretty diverse, but like not as diverse as
Hmm.
where I lived in Hong Kong, ironically. Yeah.
Yeah, cause Hong
Um,
Kong, you said when you say Commonwealth, that's like the UK
yes,
Commonwealth.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so I guess everyone's going there.
Yeah,
It's like a destination where it's all exposed to different cultures.
exactly.
So that was a nice little crash course you went
Yeah,
through before going to California. Cause where
yeah.
in California did you move to?
We moved to Orange County.
Orange County,
Yeah, yeah.
The OC.
The OC.
So
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
seen this on TV,
Yeah.
MTV, or
Yeah.
the OC, right?
Yes.
Was it exactly like that?
I would say the most accurate portrayal of what actual life is like in Orange County is actually Arrested Development. I don't know if you've seen that show.
Are you serious? It's
Yeah,
like that?
like people are very. There are some truly like out of touch rich people.
Wow.
In the cities of Orange County.
That is so
Um,
interesting.
Much more so than like the OC, that like teen soap
Yeah.
drama show. Much more than the Real Housewives. Also, that's also kind of true though. I think more than the movie. Arrested Development has some really outlandish characters and
Yeah.
plot points, but this general feeling of wow, y'all are so out of touch, like you really just live in this like strange bubble.
Hmm.
That's very true.
So you
Yeah,
probably had some friends that were like, rich or part of that community
oh
that,
yeah,
certain
yeah,
experiences you're like, all
yeah,
right,
yeah,
no, not everyone does this. Not everyone goes on
yeah,
a speedboat, to
yeah.
islands
And
to
like I
get
didn't really
cookies.
understand it at the time, but as I got older, I recognized that wow, I probably like went to school um, with a bunch of kids whose like parents voted for Reagan. You know?
I mean, that's when you get as
Yeah.
you make more money, you tend to want to keep it.
Yeah, people who voted for Reagan and Bush and just like in my hometown, the number of registered Democrats finally outnumbered registered Republicans for the first time in the past like 5 years.
Oh,
Yeah. So even though California has been a super majority Democrat state for a long time,
mm-hmm.
Orange County has been staunchly conservative, even though it's one of the coastal communities.
Wow.
So things are changing there. There's a lot more Asian people there than ever.
Ah.
I like to joke that uh, there's an Asian kid bullying a white kid at my high school these days. I just fucking know it.
That shit is
Yeah.
so interesting when like the bullying's flipped in a different way. It's kind of like,
It's
oh
happened.
shit.
It's happened. Not only do I think that's happening,
Yeah.
even like media depictions of bullying.
Mm-hmm.
I've only ever seen this once. There's this Netflix show called Cobra Kai,
Oh yeah.
and in the first season, one of the bullies is Asian. I'm like, that's how much culture has changed.
Damn, that's the diversity we're looking
Yeah,
for. Diversity
exactly.
in bullying. Not only one race should have the bullying, it should be all
Exactly.
races, right?
Because that's what true equality is, you know?
Yeah, all races should induce some type of
Yeah.
marginalization of like, based on your clothes or your shoes or your body type.
Equal opportunity bullying.
Yeah, it's not about your race. It's about the shoes you're wearing today.
Yeah, exactly.
It's about how high your pants were on your legs and not touching your shoes. It's about the Dragon Ball Z shirt you was wearing and it's 2024.
There's more Korean supermarkets than like regular supermarkets in my hometown now.
Yeah.
Yeah, we won. Like
I don't know why, but you being Korean and said we won. It's a we won. It's like, oh, that shit hit different. I don't know why. This is the first time in my life I had somebody of Asian descent be like, "We won." It's like,
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Look, man.
Can't debate that.
You walk into the H Mart.
It's like, talk that shit.
Yeah, in my hometown, and you see like you see all the non-Asian people confused.
Yeah.
And I look at them like, who's the minority now, bitch?
Bro, I ain't gonna lie to you. I don't think it happens often for Asian people to outright say like, "Yo, we got this. We owning this shit." He's like, "Oh, what? Fair enough."
Things are changing so much though. Like, I go back often, and I was in this bougie like organic food supermarket with my mom, and we're in one of the aisles, and we speak Korean to each other.
Yeah,
and we're looking for something. We're talking, and out of nowhere, this elderly white lady comes up to me. She says, "Excuse me." And my fight or flight is like switched on immediately.
Yeah.
Because I know I've been through this a lot.
Okay, living in the OC, right?
Living in the OC. And I'm prepared for literally anything to come out of her mouth. And I'm super on guard. I look over and she says, "What language are you speaking?"
I mean, you know what? Okay, go ahead.
And this is how I knew culture has changed. I said, "Oh, we're speaking Korean." She says, "Oh, it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful the way you were speaking. Oh, it's such a beautiful language." And I put my guard back down. I smiled at her. I wasn't about to be combative regardless. But yeah, I said, "Oh, thank you. That's really kind of you." And then she said, "Yeah, oh yeah. Well, okay, have a nice day." And that was the end of the interaction. But I remember when I was in high school, and someone from that generation shouted at my brother and me to go back to China. Same city.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you get offended when somebody says that?
Do I get offended when someone?
Of course. Okay, because
Yeah,
it's not accurate country, so it's just like almost laughable.
Yeah, of course. But like when you're 14 years old,
yeah, and she probably had like
you're not processing all the levels of ignorance. You're like, the fuck did you just say?
And it probably was the first thing said to you, right?
Yeah, this happened at like an arcade. Yeah.
Oh,
I was
what?
a kid, and my older brother and I were at this arcade, and this older like white man yelled at the both of us to go back to China.
That is so wild. I've been like, yo, what's going on?
That's the kind of place we're talking about, man.
Okay, the OC is weird.
Times have changed a lot.
Because all right, look, one thing this is never right, but one thing at a supermarket or in public in some place where older people are supposed to be in, but in an arcade where kids are, and you're here with us.
I'm a kid being a
Yeah,
kid.
go back
you
to
know?
your family.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we are kids. We're in development mode.
Yeah,
You're here talking about telling two Korean kids to go back to their country. You need
yeah,
help.
yeah. So I'm telling you, man, there is an Asian kid bullying a white kid at my old high school for sure, for sure.
The times have changed
Yeah,
in the right way. You know,
yeah.
it's like a nice little karma thing that's happening.
People haven't been measuring this as like like a quantitative index of
Mm.
social change, but it counts.
A
Yeah,
quantitative. Well,
yeah,
you're gonna have somebody with a hey, you know what? It could have been that white lady's like, what language are you speaking? Korean?
yeah.
Oh, thank you. She's on her phone tapping in, like, okay, there's two Korean people at this H Mart that were pleasant. So that means that it has gone down the bullying.
Yeah. I mean, the government isn't taking these statistics, but if they did, I think they would find out
He let
also.
his defenses down.
Yeah.
Bullying has gone down.
Yeah.
She was looking for you to start a fight, man. Come on, you're supposed to keep the numbers up.
There was she had an earpiece in.
Oh, she did? Yeah, she had an earpiece. Yeah, somebody's watching her, observing, right?
Yeah.
And they got secret shoppers and H Marts and just been like, hey,
It's
how
like,
you doing?
the secret camera show.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she softly put the the rice in the bag. You know, she's not bullied.
We were not in a Korean supermarket this
Right.
time. Yeah, we were in a
Right.
we were in a we were in a Sprouts.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
But no, Korea, no, like what, like, cause I was in Georgia not
Yeah.
too long ago, and like
Yeah.
in Korea, like,
hella Korean people in
yeah,
Georgia.
most people don't know
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Korean people. Here's some education about the Korean diaspora in the United States.
Okay.
We're all in California,
Mhm.
but so we're all in like LA or Orange County,
Mhm.
and some in the Bay Area, but not quite as much. Bergen, New Jersey, Flushing, Queens, and Atlanta. That's
Oh,
where all the
wow.
Koreans went. Yeah. So like LA, OC,
Mhm.
New Jersey, New York, and Georgia.
Why is that?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean,
but
Korea, I know about in California, you know,
Yeah.
like since way back. I mean, even when
Yeah.
the riots happened and stuff, that, you know, that little
Yeah.
thing going on there. But then,
Yeah.
yeah, Atlanta, that was surprising.
Yeah.
I'm talking about a lot. Like where my mom was living, like all stores was all in Korean. Or that, like, it would be like supermarket, or like not supermarkets, but like outside malls or whatever.
Yeah.
All Korean markets.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, okay, this is, you know, because you in Atlanta, you thinking like, you know,
Yeah.
home southern shit or whatever. When you start seeing that, you like, oh wow,
Yeah.
huh.
Koreatown in some of these places, like genuinely Korean.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow.
You got everything in Korean, Korean doctors,
Mhm.
Korean like pharmacists, like the
Yeah.
whole infrastructure of just Koreanness.
Gotta have a Korean church.
Gotta
Gotta
have a Korean
have
church.
that.
Yeah, Koreans love church.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
okay. That is, I've seen on TikTok and
Yeah.
stuff. I followed this guy actually.
Yeah.
He does like a lot of impersonations of like a Korean mother or something. I forgot the
Yes.
guy's name.
John Moon.
John Moon.
Yeah,
Very
yeah.
hilarious.
Yeah.
He's so good.
Yeah.
I don't, maybe learning or stereotyping. I don't know.
Yeah.
But there's a thing about church and stuff like
Yes.
that. And
Yeah,
was
yeah.
that something big? Like
Yeah. Oh yeah.
okay.
So I'm pretty sure this is true. The biggest congregation in the Presbyterian Church outside of the US is in South Korea. So Koreans are very, very Christian
Mm-hmm.
in general. There's plenty of Korean Catholics, but there's a lot of Korean Protestants. And yeah, you know, we brought that culture to the US as well. So yeah, there's a lot of Korean churches. Yeah,
Wow.
Korean church is one of, I don't know, like the 5 core pillars of Korean American culture.
And most people would not know that, you know. I
Yeah.
mean, obviously, with different, you know, places and different cultures and things, there's different religious, you
Yeah.
know, correlations.
Yeah.
Like the correlation between Korean culture and the religion of Christianity or
Yes.
Presbyterian,
Yes.
is very. I mean, was that? How did that even come about? That I don't know.
It's because of the long-standing Korean and American relationship,
Mm-hmm.
because of the war,
Oh, right.
and you know, it's the same reason why like Koreans love baseball. Yeah,
Mm.
and like trying to think of another example. Why you can find corn dogs at street food stalls.
You can find
Yeah.
corn dogs and
Oh, Koreans have like elevated the corn dog as a thing.
yeah.
Like you can get a corn dog in which the entire batter of the corn dog is French fries.
What?
Yeah. Yeah. I've
Uh,
never had one, but you
g-
can get a corn dog in
yeah.
Korea at a street food stall in which the entire batter is French fries.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, good thing you didn't have it because I mean, your life is going well. I mean, look, let's be serious. If somebody's
Yeah.
eating that, their life is not going all the way well.
For sure. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
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 You,
Yeah.
you know, things are not going up when you're at
Yeah.
a line for a stall and the batters and French. I don't even know how that's even possible.
Yeah. I don't know either, but you know,
Want to just mash French fries?
one thing about Koreans that I'll say is that when we put our mind to becoming the best at something, we do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we just like pick and choose which things to become the best at.
Mm.
Like pop music, we're like, we're gonna dominate
Oh yeah, you
pop
guys. Yeah.
music and like dancing and reality TV shows and movies about revenge and and
Movies about revenge.
and like beauty and skincare
Oh yeah, y'all got
and
that.
plastic surgery and what else do we decide to just dominate at? Um, there was another one I'm forgetting. Oh, super dramatic TV shows. Yeah,
Ah,
yeah, yeah.
okay.
So those are things we become super good at. Food, obviously.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
food. Yeah,
Korean food.
Korean fried chicken.
Best food in the world. That's another example. Koreans are like, fried chicken's not even our thing, but like, what if we became the best at this?
Yeah,
Yeah, and then just put our mind to it and did it.
yeah. I
Yeah,
heard. I
yeah.
heard that they got that because I think something about like some the servicemen that came from during the
Yes.
war.
Yeah.
Like I guess some black dudes from the south was like, hey, this is
100%.
how we do it. And it's like, all right,
Yeah.
cool, thank you. And then they.
And a bunch of Koreans are like, this is really good. What if we became the best at this? I saw an article
Mhm.
from a while back that like there was a global baguette baking competition in Paris. Koreans won it.
Damn, what?
Exactly. They're like, we'll take whatever this thing is that you do. If we decide to become good at
Yeah.
it, we will become the best at it.
Right.
But that doesn't make for like a particularly chill culture.
Well, I've been hearing about the news about some of these pop
Yeah.
stars and
Yeah.
the way they've
Yeah,
been.
super not cool.
Yeah.
But really good at baking bread now, which is weird because Koreans also love bread, even though like how good could bread be? It's just bread, but like Koreans decide to become good at it.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah,
Damn, that is. And also too with maybe not Korea, and again this is me pulling from TikTok,
yeah,
so
yeah,
don't
yeah.
come at me. Is that there's also in terms of like Korean, maybe not Korean society, but some Asian societies in Asian culture
Mhm.
is that of like what's it called? It's called like a not high order, but kind of like a high communicative, like in terms of like the way of communicating.
Formally speaking, is
Yeah,
that what you mean?
not formally speaking, but something in which like all right, there's certain vibes in certain Asian cultures that may not be understood by say culture in America or somewhere else,
Mm.
i.e., the way you may look at somebody,
Ah,
or like if you're in a
yes,
meeting setting that you
I
don't
know
give
what you
the
mean.
cup of water to somebody first, that might mean some disrespect.
This is very Korean.
Okay.
This is, I would say, yeah, maybe the most Korean thing of them all. Is this like obtuse, like even like people who are like really, really from Korea, there's still situations like this is confusing. I don't know, like I don't
Mm.
know how to best order the social hierarchy of everyone in the room. I couldn't imagine working in Korea. Like I speak the language,
Mhm.
but I would have so much trouble navigating just like, oh my God, like who is in charge? Whose drink is supposed to be poured? Like
Mm.
at what point in knowing someone do you switch from the formal to the informal way of speaking? Like dating in Korean seems difficult. And it's presented a lot of real challenges because I just saw this. Um, so I don't know how true it is, but Korean airlines used to have a lot of trouble with safety because the staff was having a hard time properly communicating danger because of the way that there's this rigid hierarchical way of speaking to your higher ups that led to a bunch of unforeseen like unpleasant outcomes. And so they like redid it. So they were like, we
Wow.
can't keep doing this. And also This is an example I know a bit better than the airline thing.
Mhm.
Um, in 2002, Korea and Japan co-hosted the World Cup,
Mm.
and the Korean national team, which is historically fine but not like amazing, finished fourth in the World Cup, which is
That's very good.
never gonna happen again,
Yeah.
right? And we had this legendary Dutch coach um, named Goos Hiddink, and he came in, and one of the things he had to change was just the social structure of the players because all of when they were like having meals, all the older players would be on their own table and all the younger players would not even be able to like interact with them because so formal, so rigid. So he was like, you guys, this is fucking not going to work as a football team.
Mhm.
So he changed a bunch of those things. And that's something that is like an ongoing challenge of
Mm.
modernizing the social fabric of Korean society because
Mhm.
there is so much inherited rigidity that I think is like one of the main things, just like holding people back. Like it's so difficult to know um, titles and processes for
Mm.
different situations.
That is interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay, because that's also a lot of cultures struggle with that too as well. I mean, not obviously it's more notorious maybe in Korea and
yeah,
other Asian cultures or whatever of
yeah,
that rigid type of social order,
yeah, yeah,
Even in African culture too, like there's things of like, yeah, there's a table for the big people and a
yeah,
table for the small kids,
yeah,
no interaction, or
yeah,
like men and the women,
yeah,
they sit over here, they sit over there. Even with how you eat your food, if you
yeah,
eat with your left hand, somebody gonna be
yeah.
like, "Yo, what's wrong?" Like we use our left hand to wipe our ass. Why are
Right,
you
right, right,
doing
right,
that? Even
right, right,
shaking hands.
right.
It's kind of like if I shake hands with a left hand, I'm like, whoa, 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 let's do that again.
Got it.
Let's right hand
Yeah,
or politics
yeah,
even,
yes,
which it kind of puts people in it puts a country in a difficult position because obviously modernization is that
yeah,
let's break that down, but
yeah.
then it's been so involved in the whole culture of it that that's kind of what kind of defines it to some degree.
Yeah.
So it's like, where's the balance, right?
I'm sure there's like, yeah, I'm sure that there's a generational sort of disagreement between people who want to keep doing things that the way they were done and, younger generations were like, it's 2025, man. Like we gotta, we gotta
Yeah.
stop doing these super outdated, like social order things. Of course, there's like positive outcomes and that you can't, you know, there were productive, uh, outcomes from having these social norms and ideas.
Mhm.
But it's within moderation. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
yeah, the moderation part is difficult. I feel like young
yeah,
people or people from the diaspora needs to come back. But to what you were saying earlier, like,
yeah,
yo, to go back to Korea and live there and to
yeah,
date and to work, I
yeah,
mean, like you can't go back. You've been in Berlin for 10 years. Your
yeah.
brain is
I
too
couldn't do
free.
it. I couldn't
Yeah.
do it. I love. I think it's so cool how much people care about Korean stuff.
Yeah.
Um, and it's just wonderful to visit. Like I recommend it to everybody. I couldn't live there. Yeah,
Yeah.
it'd be just be. I'd love to spend more time, but yeah, to like make a life there, dude. I can barely imagine living in the U.S. You know?
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, do you ever think you will live in the US? Because you've been here 10 years in
yeah,
Berlin. You ever think
yeah,
you can live back in the USA?
for sure. It would it would have to be. And when we say the U.S., like for example, I'm not that interested in living in another part of Germany. I'm not that interested in living in practically any parts of the US equally, you know?
Mm,
Like people talk about the US and just in general, people talk about cultures and countries in such broad strokes.
mhm,
But like I've only ever lived in California and New York, and it would be a hard sell for me to live in any part of the US.
mm.
And I've only ever lived in Berlin and Germany. And likewise, like it would be a hard sell for me to live somewhere else in Germany. And so I think about moving to the US, and yeah, it'd likely be one of the places I've already lived.
Yeah, I mean, you can't go back once you live in New York or like California, those
Yeah.
places, and then even living in Europe, just knowing how things are here,
Yeah.
and then yeah, especially now. I mean, with the U.S. and what's going on,
Yeah. It's
um,
yeah, particularly uncool time right now. Yeah.
very, 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 very uncool.
Yeah.
So you're also known a lot for your social media stuff, most
Yeah.
notably some of your skits
Yeah.
of being in Berlin,
Yes.
going to Berghain for the first time, or
Yes.
be on a first date with a man in
The
Berlin.
the life of the Berlin man.
There you go.
Yeah,
Yeah, you have
yeah,
so
yeah.
many, and yeah, you started on TikTok, right? And then that's where.
Yes. So I started making content, just telling stories about my experiences, much like we're doing now,
Hmm.
of what it was like to be someone who lived in California and New York and to live here. And I gave out some, I don't know, practical information about how to find an apartment, for
Hmm.
example. Um, I realized that there is, yeah, a large industry about this stuff already. My first my first sketch about Germany and the US went viral.
Mm.
And I thought, okay, there's something there. And I've been writing comedy for a really long time
Mm.
without anywhere to put it. And so it started with that, and eventually started to sharpen the subject to just like the toxic Berlin man.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a character that I know very, very well.
Ha ha! Would you
Yeah.
ever would you ever consider yourself a toxic man at some point in your life?
Uh I have been in therapy on and off for 10 years.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, there's been a lot of yeah, a lot of stuff to resolve and go through. And it's an ongoing process. People ask me sometimes, like, how do you know all this stuff? And part of it is, yeah, I know it because I have experienced some of this,
Mhm.
and I've have friends who are good at expressing their experiences and their feelings about things.
Mhm.
And yeah, having dated in Berlin, having dated in New York, and having had relationships and all different kinds of experiences, I take a lot of mental notes, and
Mm.
so there's plenty of material to
Wow.
mine
And
through.
so yeah, and dating in Berlin is definitely interesting on its own.
Yeah,
I mean, to take a little quick detour on that one. What's the difference you have noticed between dating in Berlin and New York City?
it's hard to say because I was so young when I was dating in New York,
Mhm.
and I didn't really know myself, so it was I don't know, it's sort of just calamitous. Like there were very few good experiences, and I yeah, like was not happy, most of the time. Yeah.
And not
And
happy in New York City or in,
in
in
New
general?
York,
Oh, New York. Okay.
yeah. But when when I moved here, like I've had um uh my best relationships, and also just been able to figure out what it means to be in a relationship, and have made mistakes, and I've also made some good things happen. And uh, it was a product of just getting older anyway. I'm
Mhm.
in my 30s, and it's not something that I would have figured out in any place when I was in my early 20s.
Mm.
Yeah.
That's a good thing you bring about in
Yeah.
terms of like over time you start, becoming better at like this whole dating thing.
Yeah.
Because I mean, for one, let's be serious, bro. Like you probably didn't even know what you wanted,
No.
Yeah.
No.
Like there's
Yeah.
some things where you probably didn't know what you want or you thought you wanted, you got it. You're
Yeah.
like, oh, actually, this is not really the whole thing. This
Yeah.
is actually just one little piece of it. Or like, oh,
Yeah.
I actually, need something different.
Dude, I was a disaster of a person for a long time, like I can be honest and critical of myself. Like I held things together, and people are pleased about external people, like, oh, like you had a career and you moved to a new country and you've had done all this stuff, but internally it's always been a work in progress, and
Mm,
it's ongoing still. And yeah, I still have a lot to learn. And truthfully, this experience of writing this character and seeing how people respond to this character has also been quite educational. Um, each time that I write a really, really toxic episode of what the Berlin man does, there's people in the comments, who's women in the comments, that say, not toxic enough. I've gone through worse.
Yeah.
Which just like gives me pause. Like, what do you mean? This is an
Berlin.
exaggerated, unrealistic example of what this man might do. And you're telling me in real life, worse shit has happened?
Yeah.
Like, I made a sketch recently about how it's the morning after a night with the Berlin man.
Yeah.
And he gives the woman a goodie bag of like useful things to take away with her because he's kicking her out. And the number of women who said, "Where's my goodie bag? I would like a goodie bag," was alarmingly high. You should not want a goodie bag. You should want a man who doesn't kick you out of the house in the morning, you know, who isn't treating you like an expendable object to just, throw onto the street.
Well, look, Brian, the bar is in hell right now in
Yes.
Berlin. So a
Yeah.
goodie, like, bro, I ain't gonna lie. If
Yeah.
it is a goodie, if it was just mentioned,
Yeah.
it'd be like, yo, what? Just you don't even have to give it to me. You just
Yeah.
even say. If a girl was like, "Hey, it's a goodie bag," I mean, it would be kind of weird if a girl's like, "Goodie bag," but I mean, I'll be like, "What? I ain't know it's part of the deal." Like most women ain't even hearing the word goodie bag.
For sure.
And if they did, they probably should get out the apartment immediately because that don't even sound like a great thing, you know.
I'm very aware that the bar is in hell.
Oh, you've
I
been here
went
10
on
years, you know, yeah.
I went on a first date once where the girl was telling me that she was having a good time because I listened and asked questions. And I thought that's literally the definition of a conversation.
Yeah.
Like that's all it takes for you to think, wow, this is great. He like didn't say a bunch of random shit without
Yeah.
giving me a chance to talk. Like he asked me about things and I told him things and he mentioned those things later on in the conversation. Like that's
Yeah.
crazy.
It's
And
like, oh wow, this day is going great. You haven't mentioned polyamory once, you know?
yeah,
Like,
exactly. You haven't mentioned polyamory. You haven't asked me if I want to go to Kit Kat for our second date. You haven't asked me if I want to go to Vabali. You haven't asked me if you want to just go back to your place immediately. You haven't, like lied to me obviously about anything so far. Yeah, the bar is subterranean.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that some things dating in Berlin here, there's some things specific in Berlin you won't experience in other places.
But another thing that you to the original question, like I feel a lot like, and from what I've heard, I feel like dating the Berlin man is probably very similar to meeting the London man and the Brooklyn man and the Melbourne man and the LA
Ah.
man. Like I think uh, it's a lot of similar stories
Mm.
of avoidant, toxic,
Yeah, I feel like the toxicity
immature man.
in New York City is more clandestine. Like it's more like in the shadows.
I hear you.
Yeah, and then Berlin is out in the open.
Yeah.
Like the things that I heard from
Yeah.
other women, like that they experience,
Yeah.
it's things where I'm like, what? Like how? I'm thinking like, whoa, so you had to go through some investigative thing to find it?
Right.
Like, no, on the first date, you're like, yo, what the? Like,
Is it maybe a question for the audience? Is it better for you to just say outright, I'm kind of a fuckboy. Like this is what you're gonna get.
Yeah.
Like I'm asking you directly that I want to be in a polyamorous relationship and we'll
Right.
see if you bite rather than in New York, someone's like doing it, on the low. And you find out later.
I think each has their pros and cons. I think the pros and cons of it happening up front, like
Yeah.
like for one, that's jarring because you're like, whoa,
Yeah.
what is it about me that this is
Right.
being? You feel comfortable to just say this, you know what I mean? Because that does. Let's be serious. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like, all right, like if somebody's telling you, there's some view that I have of like, all right, yeah, this
Yeah.
is whatever. Then also, where does it go from there? You can't even have a good time after that. It's like if that happens in the first 10 minutes and you just order food and a drink, it's like, well, this night is whack.
Well,
But if there's a
yeah.
lie, at least there's like there's like a nice little, with the dad there, we find some things out. Every day is new.
The story is more interesting.
The story is great. And then
Yeah.
you get into a bumpy road. But
Yeah.
at least the story in the beginning was like, oh, wow, there was some trees. And oh my God, there was a nice whimsical buildings. There's cobblestones, right? And then, polyamory. And you're like,
Yeah.
whoa, all right, the pages are a
Yeah.
little different here.
Yeah.
Wow, this is the first arc of the story. And that's an arc now. Whereas in this in the first part of you knowing about polyamory early in the date,
Yeah.
that's like some weird Danish film movie where the arc is in the beginning, and then now you're just trying to come to the resolution by the end. You're like, oh wow, your dad and mom didn't hug you. That's why you want to do polyamory. You want to be hugged by multiple people. I didn't know.
I think at the end of the day, people being transparent and communicative, because there is someone for not everyone, but there is
Uh,
someone for most people,
right.
right? So one thing that I've learned about dating in life is that people are very invested in knowing and explaining their type.
Mm-hmm.
Who are you into? Like, what are the characteristics of the kind of person you like, without spending enough time knowing who you're the type for.
Oh,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
So like, okay, you can say, oh, I like this kind of a girl. I want to look for these qualities. But you also have to know who's into you, who's going to find you interesting and attractive. And people need to find each other between, knowing both of those things better and being open about, wow, this is what I want. You're what I want. I'm what you want. And we can be honest instead of like trying to merge the gap with lies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's not say lies. Let's just say
Yeah,
let's say withholding of information.
Yeah.
I would love
Yeah.
to give you this information, but not
Right.
now.
Right.
Like, well, you got a good cheese spread, charcuterie board, right? This is not the best time to bring out this polyamory stuff, right?
Yeah.
Let's do it when there's hamburgers and some
Yeah.
drinks and some wine.
Yeah. Have you ever been on Field?
Nah, I have not, bro.
Yeah.
Anytime I hear that app or something,
Yeah.
somebody they tell me about it, I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm good.
You see some interesting preferences that I've had to Google because I didn't know what those acronyms meant. GGG. I had to Google that shit. But people are putting it out explicitly that this is what I'm into, and you're into it or you're not. And in
What
a
it-
way, there's plenty of toxic stuff happening on Field, but in a way, I felt like that is more of a solution. People be straightforward
Yeah.
with.
I feel like
their
Berlin is a place
preferences.
where people are more upfront about stuff. Like there's such a society and community here that allows you to be very open to like some of your thoughts and wants and desires and stuff. Where
Yeah.
even some of the things I've heard people say, like again, somebody can be just tell somebody, hey, how you doing? How's things been with you? Yeah, I'm doing great. I'm unemployed. He'd be like, whoa, he'd be like, okay, and your name is like, just out front. You'd be like,
Yeah.
oh, that was new for me.
Yeah.
So I feel like there's a lot of components here in Berlin where you can be open, even down to the extent of,
Yeah.
well, I don't even know what that GGG thing is.
Yeah.
I feel like, this.
It means good, giving, and game, which I then had to Google as well to figure out what that even means.
Damn, that sounds crazy. If you had a Google within the Google of
Exactly.
the acronym,
Exactly.
the acronym was not good. The actual explanation of the acronym wasn't good enough. You had to Google the acronym definition.
It was too abstract both times. But
So what is it? I mean, is it?
I don't know. I don't remember anymore. I think it means like you're like a very accommodating and like you're like sort of down.
Back to
but-
you listen and you don't, you don't say go to Vabali Raft. Okay, this is like the same thing, I guess.
I don't know, man. I'm not on it. I'm not on I'm not on any dating apps.
Yeah.
And I'll never do it again.
You'll never do
I'll
it
never
again.
do it again. Yeah. I talk shit about dating apps a lot because it's good material. But yeah, it's not for me.
What makes dating apps not for you?
I found it to be overwhelming and just like,
overwhelming. My man.
yeah.
Okay.
No,
He's
no.
like too many options. I tell you, I need to focus on my priorities.
Yeah. I
You do know that's not the common answer. I was getting too overwhelming. It was just too many likes. I just didn't know what to do. I just had to focus on myself and my career. What a great flex. I love it. Sorry I had to call it out. I should have just not said anything.
No, it's no, man. It's It is a little bit of that. It is a little bit of that, but
Yeah,
also just the universal experience of dating apps of being shown every person. They're not
mhm,
real people, right? You're just
true.
being shown this like curated abstraction of a person, which is what regular life is truly. You go on a first date, you don't know that person. Like we said, are they being honest? Or are they telling a good story?
Mhm,
But the dating app thing I found to be like because I maybe it's unique to me after having had this experience because I write comedy and because I write a representation of myself in a way because I write a character.
mhm,
Filling out a dating app profile is like I'm just writing a character.
right,
Again, I'm writing a character just like I was writing it for a stand-up bit or for a comedy sketch
mhm,
or for some other scripted show. Like I'm
right.
not writing me. Like this is just another character. And I yeah had I like, that gave me some pause. Like
Oh, interesting.
yeah yeah
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. Because at the end of the day, I definitely am writing a version of myself into the profile and like reading other people's profiles, like seeing how they present themselves. Like it got to be too much. Like I don't really want to spend all of this time and energy trying to figure out what's right. And like at this age, like I'm not trying to go through the field, you know?
Mhm,
I'm not trying to meet everybody.
yeah.
Yeah. So no more dating apps for me.
Yeah, and also it'll be tricky too, right? Because you're known as this guy, and imagine to see you in the app, they might try to interact with you as that guy, right? So it
Yeah.
becomes very interesting. Of like, oh,
Yeah.
you're the oh my gosh, you're the night after Berlin
Dude,
guy or something.
like this is not a flex, it's just like part of the story.
Okay.
I get recognized in public enough times just because in Berlin, not because I'm famous, but because I make content that is so specifically about Berlin.
Hmm.
People that are sort of in our demographic have mostly seen those videos, you know?
Yeah, I've seen it. Shit,
Yeah.
I was in America.
It, crazy. Yeah. So people when they it happened yesterday. I was walking down the street and this person passed by and stopped and said, "Oh, hey. Oh, I recognize you from the videos." And whenever this happens, I always just like and this isn't some kind of like grand courtesy. I always introduce myself.
Yeah,
"Oh, hey, I'm Brian. What's your name?" And we have a little conversation.
nice.
But that's like not an accomplishment. It's like, "You don't know me. You don't know me."
All right.
Because it'd be weirder if I'm like, "Yeah, you know me. Like, you saw my name and face on the
Yeah.
internet." I'm like, "No, like,
Which, by the way, they did.
yeah, but like, I'm introducing myself as if it's the first time you've ever seen me because it is.
I guess
It
so, but
actually is,
yeah, they like,
you know?
hey, how you doing? My name is Brian. They're like, yeah, I stalked you already. All right, so
Yeah.
yeah, so I want to actually get your autograph, and
Yeah, that has never happened. And man, like,
yeah,
it never that's not what I do it for, and that's never the point. Like,
of course.
it's, like, goofy. It's fun, like, I think it's a very, goofy experience for 2 people to have.
Hmm.
But I introduce myself. I like I want to know their name, and we'll have a chat about like what they saw, like if they liked something,
Hmm.
all of that stuff. Because you got to turn this into a real human interaction, and not like, oh, you know who I am because you saw a character I play on the
Yeah.
internet. Yeah,
Well, good for you. I mean,
yeah.
good for you for that and being in Berlin where that can happen. Because in America, that you try to do that, they will look at you stupid. They're like, you do know that you're just
You're not. What do you mean you're not real?
yeah,
I don't
you're
give a
just an
fuck.
abstraction of
Yeah,
something I saw in real
yeah,
life. That's as far as it's going, and that's
yeah,
pushing it.
yeah,
But
yeah,
at least
yeah,
you're here where the
yeah,
interactions could be more wholesome.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so all right, so you social media, you well known for it. So and also to TikTok, Instagram. I don't know if you do YouTube as well.
One day.
One day, yeah,
Yeah.
YouTube is another game.
Yeah, totally, totally.
Another game.
Yeah.
What are some of your tips for someone that would like to get more reach or more views on any of these social?
Um, very interesting question. Many people would like to know. Um, it's a performance, right? Everything you put on the internet is a performance, and you have to treat it like a performance because if I went into writing or like acting out a sketch as if
Mhm,
it's really me, then it's not gonna be interesting in the
mhm,
first 2 seconds. Like, for example, I've had many experiences where I'd write the sketch and then change it. So I put one of the best jokes, one of the punchlines in the beginning.
Ah,
If I'm telling a story in real life and I want to tell you about something funny that happened, I want to build up to it.
right.
And stand up is more forgiving. You can like have a much bigger, longer, more drawn out, um, what is it called? Like setup, right?
Yeah.
Much longer setup, and then drop a killer punchline after a minute.
Mhm.
Social media punchline first 3 to 10 seconds.
Wow.
Like I've had to rewrite a bunch of sketches. Just oh my god, no one's gonna watch this until the end. I put the funny bit in the second part of the video. No one will watch this. I have to stuff the funny parts in the beginning
Mm.
and treat it like a performance. It's not real. Like you are playing a character, even if you are representing yourself.
Mhm.
And um, this goes out to like I've watched a bunch of content that people have made who are new to social media, and um, people need to be much, much more incisive and critical of what happens in those first 2 seconds, first 5 seconds.
Mm.
Like you need this to be interesting. Something needs to happen, or else I'm gone. Why would I stay? There are so many amazing, amazing comedians and content creators on social media,
Mhm.
and you're competing for people's attention against them. And frankly, I would rather watch them if your thing's not going to be interesting in the first 3 seconds.
Yeah.
And that's how people feel. And that's how the algorithm feels at the end of the day. The
Mhm.
algorithm isn't like that complicated. Do you have something that captures my attention, that convinces me to stay or not?
Mhm.
Yeah. Because if you look at even the data on Instagram or TikTok, the drop off of when people
Oh,
left,
it's so sharp.
it's
Yeah, it's like immediate. Even for
immediately.
viral videos, that thing still goes
Exactly.
sharply down.
So that's that part. Like, make sure it's a performance. Don't tell the story as if you would in real life. Make sure that it's very catchy in the first couple of seconds.
Mhm.
Um, have something interesting to say. Everyone does. I mean that. Everyone does have a story. Everyone does have something interesting to say, but
Mhm.
people get very caught up in like this is very true of marketing and advertising as well. And I've told many, many people over the years, stop writing like you're writing an ad, because we've seen so much content, we've seen so many ads, we've seen so much marketing, but we're bombarded by marketing and branding. And people think they don't believe in marketing branding. Believe me,
Mhm.
your entire life you're being bombarded by marketing and branding and advertising and targeted media. Stop writing like you were writing an ad just because you've seen an ad before. That that model, that concept you're trying to replicate, stop being good a super long time ago.
Mm.
Write for the exact audience, like write for the project, write for the prompt that you're actually trying to address, rather than trying to write a comedy sketch, than trying to write an ad, trying to write an intro or like whatever. Like actually do the thing that you're trying to do instead of trying to copy this like mental model you borrowed from somewhere.
That's a good point about the
Yeah.
mental models and borrowing it because
Yeah.
there's so many out there. People get confused,
Yeah.
and like sometimes the way to make it, especially for people that watch this and are
Yeah.
also artists, they're
Yeah.
always trying to find ways to make it on social media, as everyone
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Um, all right, two more questions I have.
Yeah.
So one is about one thing I think a lot of artists struggle with is
Yeah.
the thing of like ads and things like that,
Mhm.
and also to social media. And
Mhm.
what are you like? So you coming from the marketing world specifically, like
Yeah.
Gary Vee and Google, all these places.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts of like ads and social media and like the combination of those two?
I think it's a shame that people who just want to be artists also have to be marketers. Um, just facts. Um,
Yeah.
that sucks. And I don't consider myself an artist. Like
Ah, come on, you
yeah.
artist, bro.
Well, yeah, but like I had to, in a way, I'm making an artificial distinction here, but at some point in my life, I had to decide for myself that I want to be in entertainment rather than art.
Mm.
And I just made it. I agreed with like internally. I made an agreement with myself that I am pursuing entertainment. I'm not pursuing art, which liberated me to do more of this superficial, more promotion oriented marketing stuff with conviction. Because if I thought of myself really like as an artist, I would feel way less comfortable doing all the other stuff. Because my point of view would be I'm an artist. Like, this is some serious shit. Like, I'm doing something that's important. Why the fuck do I have to do marketing? But when I made the decision, I actually no, I'm not doing art, I'm doing entertainment.
Mhm.
It's much easier to connect them. Oh, if you're doing entertainment, marketing is a part of it. Being an artist, I would feel like, no, fuck marketing. I'm an artist. So it's an
Mm.
artificial distinction, but it needed to be done for myself to be more comfortable doing that other part. So, um, yeah. Part A is that it sucks that people have to do marketing when they just want to do art. But part B is uh, be born to generational wealth next time if you don't want to do that. Yeah.
this this is talking with people that been in the industry of like marketing and stuff for real. Cause you probably
Yeah.
seen some people that had that artist like first thing and
Yeah.
then not
Yeah.
succeed. Not even
Yeah.
succeed. They just suffered, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
especially, you live in New York City too. There's some people
Yeah.
that I know that like extremely funny, but
Yeah.
just don't know how to market themselves.
Yeah.
And it's a shame. I'm talking about they will blow
Yeah.
somebody out the water comedic wise,
Yeah.
stand up wise,
Yeah.
but like they don't know how to market themselves in a way to put them in front of people,
Yes.
enough people to make a living from that, to
Yeah.
continuously get that cycle going of like you see me on stage, sell
Yeah.
out tickets, boom, bigger venues, all this
Yes.
stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's a good word to say.
Yeah.
A difficult one.
Yeah. And it like I don't want to sound too critical. I've seen over the years what like friends of mine have like tried to do when they turn their when they like try to market their art.
Mm-hmm.
And what they end up doing is what I said earlier.
Mm.
They try to they try to write an ad. Like they just think, oh, what I'm doing now is marketing. I gotta do marketing. Don't do marketing. Do art, but just in a way that's native to the platform you're trying to do it on.
Mm.
I've seen some really corny things that like really talented artist friends of mine have done on social media. I'm like, this isn't you at all. Like you're trying to just copy something that you think works because that's
Yeah.
what marketing is supposed to look like in your head. You're not actually doing your thing. Your talent, your art is not being represented in this corny thing at all. So if you're a really talented creator, so if you're an artist, you're a creator, right?
Hmm.
Just figure out how to bring the quality of your art to the platform in a way that feels native to the platform, in a way that doesn't feel like you're trying to be like a weird guest to the platform who's like an explorer, like, oh, I've never been here before.
Yeah.
Act like you've been here before.
Hmm.
Like people have such weird opinions about social media that are valid in the broader context, but about promoting their work, just figure it out. Act like you've been here.
Yeah.
Make stuff that is cool. Your art is cool. It should be presented in a way that is cool on the platform itself. And I know they're not even proud of those ads. They're not proud of that content. Like, dude, your content is ass because you're trying to copy some shit that like you don't even believe in. And we can tell like you have no conviction in this thing you've made.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ah, man, working in that industry, bro, you probably very like keen to just knowing what works and what doesn't to the max.
Yeah.
And then
100%.
working with Gary, I mean, shit, working with Gary V, bro, because I consume his stuff and he's very like,
Yeah.
I mean, supportive but cutthroat at the same time in terms of what's working and what's
Yes.
not.
Yes.
And what was like what were the top three things you learned from Gary V, like in marketing and advertising?
Um, One of the top things is something that I've mentioned before of just attention is attention,
Mm-hmm.
no matter what. Like people get people get very intellectual about a new social media platform or a new format or a new medium. Oh, we got to really crack the TikTok problem. We got to really like figure out um like short form video. We got to figure out how to do all this stuff. And like attention, the nature of attention has been the same the entire time you were trying to figure this out?
Mm,
You know, are you able to get people to pay attention to your thing in the format that they're looking at the thing on or not? You can go read the industry reports about how the algorithm is changing about whatever, and you can waste all of your time doing that instead of just thinking about, okay, how do I get people's attention in general?
mm,
You know,
mm,
people get clouded, they get like confused about the fact that the end consumer is just a person. It's not a number on a screen. It isn't a page of a slideshow. A person is watching your thing or consuming your content, experiencing your creation at the end of the day. So attention is attention regardless of however new the format is.
mm.
Yeah. Yeah. And the other one is, yeah, make sure there's value in the thing. If you try to sell someone something without any context, the likelihood of them buying it very, very low. Very, very
Context.
low. Very low. The analogy, the obvious one is, you know, you meet someone and you can try to ask them immediately if they want to, if they want to go out with you
Mm-hmm.
or if they want to sleep with you or whatever. Likelihood of them saying yes, much lower than if you had made the relationship and showed them who you are and gave them a compelling reason to want to go out with you. And it seems very, very dumb, but that's what we're doing at the end of the day. We're forming relationships with people on the other side of the screen
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, giving them a reason to watch and giving them a reason to care about what you make. And if you're trying to sell something, care about what you're selling.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's why so many brands are relying on creators because why the fuck would I care about some brand? You know, the gap between brand and consumer has been getting thinner and thinner every year since forever.
Mm,
And now it's like practically, you know, invisible,
mhm.
this gap. So people want to have relationships with brands and they do that. Sorry, no one wants to have a relationship with a brand. So if they want to do that, they have to give a person to have that relationship with.
Mm.
Yeah.
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 That's
And the final thing, this isn't so much a Gary thing, but this is how I feel about marketing in general. Um, People make decisions based on incentives. So, is there a reason for me to do whatever action it is that you want me to do? Yeah. And make sure you give them a good one.
mm.
Yeah.
Those are some top three ones right there that
Yeah.
hopefully people take away.
Yeah.
It might be hard to digest, but definitely
Yeah.
much needed, especially for artists. You
Yes,
know.
for sure. For sure.
So, okay, this is for real, the last question.
Yeah.
So, you've been through a lot of different experiences in your life, right?
Mhm.
From moving to different places, starting from Korea to Hong Kong to the OC,
Yeah.
even San Fran, then Brooklyn. So many different places. Even
Yeah.
you living in Berlin for 10 years,
Yeah.
which is like a very long time to live in some place that that's very different than the U.S. and other
Yeah.
places.
Yeah.
If you was to go back to your younger self in any part of that journey, what would be the number one advice you would give to yourself?
Whoa. Um, the number one advice I would give to my younger self is to choose creativity 100% instead of choosing percentages, fractions of multiple things. Because the mistake that I think a lot of young people make is I don't want to pursue creativity because it's dangerous. It's not as safe as getting a job or whatever. You're going to have so much time to get a job. Pursue creativity when you're young, whole ass creativity instead of like half assing creativity and money, for
Mm.
example. If you want to make money, just go work in finance. Almost 100% sure that you'll make money, right? If you know how to do the things that they ask you to. Don't try to do art and something else. Like do art even if your parents aren't rich. Like I joke about it enough, but do that to try and build up your voice and your like body of work as much as possible
Mhm.
because you can take that with you forever,
Mm.
right? You can take your skill and point of view and your body of work into whatever you decide to do in the future. So I tell myself to, yeah, choose creativity 100%, younger,
Mhm.
and then figure out what happens from there.
That's a good advice right
Yeah.
there. Especially choosing creativity first
Yeah.
before the corporate grind you down,
Yeah. For
a
sure.
bit.
Yeah.
Especially in these places like New York and San Fran.
Yeah.
But bro, this has been dope. Anything you want to mention? I don't know, like you got anything
Um,
in the works?
yeah, please. Uh, well, thank you for your support. If you've ever watched anything that I've made, it's like, it's just a thrill that like people, uh, it's a thrill that people have ever watched anything that I've made and like had a laugh about it. It still gives me a great amount of joy. Thank you for supporting me and following me. You can find me at Bryan Inhealy on Instagram and TikTok. Um, Hope to perform more stand up this year, and I'm writing my own show. I'd love to write more scripted, like longer scripted series types of things. And yeah, I'd love to just be more on camera more as well moving forward, and um, sharing my experiences and sharing, good times with the world.
Nice. And anyone who comes up to him, you make sure you introduce yourself first. Don't put the legwork on him so he has to say his name, even though you know his name already and you're acting aloof, saying your name. So come up to him properly. All right.
Mm,
This is Brian Lee right here. You got
mm.
to make sure, he's a guy that traveled a lot of places and he did a lot of therapy,
True,
and he's
true,
not
true.
toxic anymore.
Yeah,
All
shout
right.
out my therapist.
Yeah. Shout out to your therapist,
Yeah,
wherever that person is
yeah,
in
yeah.
Berlin.
In Berlin, yeah,
Okay, of
yeah,
course. It
yeah,
can't be no outside. That's a
yeah,
a therapist outside of Berlin trying to solve Berlin problems. Yeah, it can't even happen.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah, yeah,
all right. But
yeah.
bro, thank you very much for
Thanks
doing
so much
this.
for having me. It was a
Thank
pleasure.
you very much.
Yeah.
And guys, thank you for listening and or watching to the Third Culture Talk podcast. I'm your boy Nyan Yenifin. This is Brian Lee, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace. There you go. Boom.
Yeah, that was amazing.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah.
Good shit.
What a free flowing conversation. I love it.
Yeah, there you go, bro. And we touch upon the important things wherever they are.
Yeah, dude, you like had me cover the whole range. I was